Well, good morning. Breakfast with the broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. There's all these things that are going on in this world, and we are here to, kind of advocate for community, advocate for professionalism, perpetuate that professionalism and collaboration within the industry. And we continue to do that with bringing value to you as our watchers, our viewers, our followers, and this next guest will not disappoint. So without further ado, and now, by way of Coral Springs, Florida, she is a broker associate at Coldwell Banker. She is also a global luxury investment property specialist. She has more letters after her name than the alphabet, including GRI, CIPS, AHWD instructor, SFR, and she can even help with your real estate needs in Dubai. She is your 2021 Educator of the Year and Florida Realtors Director. She is Deborah Bethune.
Woo! Boy, that is the best introduction I've ever had. I mean, wow, thank you. I was like, who is that? Who is she? Who is she? Thank you so much. And
Oh,
good
you are.
morning to the Breakfast with the Broker audience. Good morning, David, and thank you for having me here and sharing on your platform.
Well, it's amazing because as you go through this journey, and when people say leadership journey and where you're going through and such, and you're looking at it and you're going, well, why do you volunteer your time? Why do you give back? And most of it is building relationships. I would have never met you, right? Or
Yes.
our paths probably would have never crossed, unless it was through a real estate transaction, or through maybe an event or something. But I was so impressed when you did our leadership orientation, and really just kind of teaching and giving us some things to think about. And obviously, diversity is a big deal right now. And tell us a little bit about how you teach, and how do you get people who have thought one way and don't believe that you know maybe at home with diversity, as far as that the course and such like that, they don't believe one way. They need to be kind of taught and maybe informed a little bit more.
Okay, so, there's diversity. When we say that word, people sort of either sit up straight or they sort of crunch down. It's everything from diversity, equity, inclusion. When we start talking about, discrimination and some things were brought to light in 2020 and impacts, but it's nothing new. It's nothing new. As far as for me, and when I'm teaching a particular session, I like engagement. I'm not the one that wants to just stand up there and wah wah wah, and what I've learned and research, and I definitely share that. But it's about the audience. It's about experiences. It's about making an impact, and it's for all of us, including myself. We're ever changing. When we talk about implicit biases, for example, it's important to understand that it isn't just one phenomenon. It's across the board. It's in every country. It's every gender, across. It's across our board. And so I like to understand the individual experience.
Yeah, it's implied bias. When you were discussing it, a lot of times, when we self-reflect, we think that we've done nothing wrong, right? That we're not, I'm Jewish. I would never be discriminatory or use discriminatory practices. But when you bring up implied bias and you start talking about it, there are things that you need to change. And whether it's phrases or things that you have always said in the past, doesn't mean that they're right. It just means that sometimes you got to think about and self-reflect as to and be careful as to what your words, because despite what the sticks and stones may hurt your bones, or words are never, that doesn't hold true, because words do hurt.
And that is so true, David. We have to, as you said, reflect, because it starts with reflection within ourselves. and not always having, as I say, the boxing gloves on, wanting to defend ourselves because I was raised this way and my parents didn't teach me this and I've given to this charity and I do this. But it's a lot more than that. And when I say it's all of us, it's all of us. You know, we have to look at those jokes that we have in the corner in the dark with ourselves or with our family and friends and things that we laugh at, and how our impact is to others. I grew up in South Florida and I went to school in the deep South, Alabama.
Roll
And so
Tide.
coming, well, Tide, but it was.
It was
I went to
Auburn.
Tuskegee. I went to HBCU.
Okay.
So for those that may be on a call or maybe listening and not, that's a historically black colleges and university. So coming from South Florida and then going to Alabama, you think, Miami is as far south as you can get. Trust me, there's a lot more further south
So
than Miami.
so I don't know if you know this, but I went to University of Alabama. So
Okay.
the interesting thing, and we'll talk about this, and I still remember this very, very vividly. So when my parents were driving me up to move me into the school, it was very late at night. I think we're going through somewhere around Dothan, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and it's really different, right? This was back in what 1991. So when you're looking at 1991, hopefully things have changed somewhat. But when we were driving through, there was almost like a scene out of the Twilight Zone. You had a police officer, it was about 10:30 at night, in the middle of the road saying, "Oh, no, you can't go down there. You have to go down this. It'll be about 45 minutes around. You're going to have to take this dark, desolate highway, which is a 1 or 2 lane road." And so we did. And it was my first, you know, I've been, just being Jewish, you've been somewhat words discriminatory or people say things or whatever. But it was my first kind of thing saying, wow, this is different because we saw burning crosses. We saw the KKK groups, as we're driving at 11 o'clock at night down a dark, desolate highway. So, when you look at, how things affect you, because it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, green, yellow, Jewish, Catholic, we've all been discriminated, right? We've all been discriminated and we just have
Yes.
to do better.
Yes, that is so true. And as you were saying, the Alabama experience was exactly that. Those, maybe haven't had that experience, the Deep South, and I was there. You were saying the early 90s. I was there in the early 80s. And so it was even more intense. And just as you said, certain roads you couldn't go down, pretty much as they say, even in the 80s, don't, not after dark. I mean, the list goes on. And also with that experience, because the university, it was a very diverse university. Tuskegee was known for, Tuskegee Airmen, aerospace engineering, biological sciences, and so forth, and agriculture and veterinary medicine. And so there were a lot of students from other countries that was often there. And that was really my first experience because I grew up in South Florida with people from everywhere. I mean, and it was that there our concept of diversity and the labels as Americans that we often put on people was then shown to me that as an American, just from my upbringing, unconsciously, implicit biases, that what did I think of someone from Africa? What did I think of someone from the UK? What did I think of someone from the Middle East? And that was really the first interaction that I had. And then from there, my adulthood, I moved to Atlanta. Very diverse community, a lot different and more engagement where it gives you an opportunity to, as they say, diversity truly is experienced when you're putting your feet under somebody's dining room table. And so whether you're invited, if you couldn't go home for Thanksgiving, your neighbor will come on over with that, come on over to our home and whatever. And you're like, oh, really? And so that's where we begin to really practice and see and have an engagement. So it starts with us. It starts with us as realtors, as What are we doing as gatekeepers and guides to real estate to wealth? How are we having those engagements with our inner circle? It starts first, and to broaden out to our other colleagues, to our community, and so forth. So it's an ever changing, ever evolving process for ourselves. How can I do better? I personally, how can I do better? Where's an opportunity that I can see to expand my thoughts and have healthy conversations with individuals that are unlike myself so I can have a better understanding?
Yeah, it's funny because in South Florida, you're not going to get invited to someone else's dining room table. Atlanta, you may.
Yes,
Alabama, you may. South Florida, maybe not.
that's
Um,
true. That's true. And that is so impactful. That shows, when I moved back here, because I lived in Atlanta 20 plus years. So it's a totally different culture. People embrace each other. And again, when you move into a neighborhood, and because they don't have all of those gated communities and separation, and this group is over here and this group is over here, everybody's in the same community. You move in, you have there's the housewarming committee that comes over and brings you something and tells you the coffee, this shop up here has the best coffee, and this one you can pick this up, and so forth. Oh, you can't pick up your child from school. Oh, I can pick them up when I. So it's having that. We have to learn to kind of break down our silos, break down our walls, invite people into our lives, have those healthy conversations, and so forth. It's different where we are, but we can make it better individually.
so, you know, we talk about realtors doing better. We talk about people doing better. What specifically can a realtor do, besides the self-reflection to really just kind of, maybe further themselves to understand, what they're doing may or may not be the right way of acting and or discussing with clients and such, because no one wants that phone call or that fair housing complaint and or violation to come to them, and people don't understand it. Well, I didn't do that? Everyone else is doing it, or my mentor is doing it, or what have you. How can realtors do better?
Absolutely. Or I've been doing this for 10, 20 years and I've never had a complaint. The list goes on. So, one thing for sure, other than, excuse me, other than the reflection, is training. Training is not a one time act and done. So, when it comes to, because we're talking about soft skills, we're talking about emotional impact, we're talking about slowly turning the car the other direction from our mindset, because implicit biases is so, because it is based upon unconscious thinking that we've just done it so repeatedly that it just becomes habit, and that takes time to change. It becomes knowledge to kind of look at assessments when we're taking certain trainings, when we're taking our fair housing training, be the change, at home with diversity. There are a number of trainings, implicit biases, trainings that we will continue to roll out throughout the year. And just opening, I think even before that, really the step back, as you said, with reflection is being open, because you can take all the trainings in the world, get all of the alphabet soups after your name, but unless you truly are being open with yourself to say, okay, this is something I would like to learn more about. I would like to learn more about engagement. Yesterday was, we celebrated Martin Luther King, the holiday for Dr. Martin Luther King. And so, again, opportunities. Where do we see opportunities to participate in events, to go to parades, to go to a speech, a lecture, events that are happening in other parts of the community that we may not normally go to? And that's for everyone. I mean, myself, everyone, to go to an event that maybe you are familiar with, or an organization that you're familiar with, and let's invite others to those events so that they can experience, so we can start having healthy dialogue, so we can start seeing each other in a more of a human light, as we all being on the same. That would be one. That would definitely be one.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, what we kind of say is, you know, we're all the same. I mean, we're a product of our own environment and our own experiences, but essentially, we're all people, and we
Yes.
all have feelings. We all have things that that maybe offend us, things that don't offend us, but we're all people, and don't kind of judge a book by its cover. Get to understand and know. So, maybe even asking questions with the intent to understand, or to have clarity. Moving on
Exactly.
to, safety, right? So, safety's obviously been a huge thing, and as realtor safety, and it's come to light, with the tragic death of Sarah Trost in Coral Springs in your area as well. You know, um, it's just it's frustrating when you look at it that there are so many people out there that are just not good people, right? They do not great things. So how does a realtor protect themselves? What are some maybe tips or advice that you can give to our viewers that may help in the future?
David, safety with our business, everything we do, whether it's, making sure that we follow up with our lead and making sure that, I be the first to respond and the first to show the property and the first to get the listing. Our business is based upon expediency, just kind of following. We market, our names are out there. Anyone, we give out business cards, they're everywhere. We advertise. So we're open to the public. Our address, oftentimes when they look at, they can go to DBPR and look up our mailing address or our home address, whatever. So we have to first of all be fully aware that we are, open to the public. We truly are open to the public. And with that being said, unfortunately, there are individuals that don't have the kindness of heart in every circumstance and situation. And even though we're constantly branding ourselves, marketing, and building our business, we must be fully cognizant that of making ourselves aware of our surroundings, of where we are, making our family, friends, and colleagues, seeking opportunities for which we can partner up. If we get a phone call and someone wants to see a property, having that kind conversation of, okay, taking a step back, making sure you're getting their information, their phone number. There are websites that some brokerages have partnered with that you can then research to find out who that person actually is. um, Partnering with somebody in your office to say, I'm going over here to 123 Main Street. Would you like to go along with me? And then we can stop and have some lunch, some coffee. Everything is an opportunity for us to kind of engage with our safety. Asking the person on the phone, they want to see the property right away. And this, well, how did you hear about me? Oh, well, I saw your ad over here, and that, okay, well, I don't advertise there. So you have to really look at a number of things. We take safety very seriously. There's a lot to be discussed regarding safety, informing others, making sure that you're doing the right things when you go to a property, getting ID. And this is not just showings. We tend to think that it's all more so on the buying side. But let's be realistic. We go into people's homes who we don't know, sit at their coffee table, dining room table, walk through their home in places that no one knows that we are. We're in somebody's closet. So all of those things we need to kind of rethink sometimes or get information. Um, Even their ID when you're going to schedule a listing presentation Monday at 2 o'clock. Well, having that conversation with the prospective seller, doing the research and saying, okay, you have to establish, meaning you as a real estate professional, business practices. And so what do those business practices look like? I require a copy of your ID. I require this, so forth. And that's also on my website so that then it doesn't appear that, back to our previous conversation, you being discriminatory. You're requiring it for one person, but you're not requiring it for another. And so, again, partnering up, even if you're an experienced agent, I know oftentimes we don't like to maybe take another on our listing presentation because we want to keep our secret sauce to ourselves, But, opening that door to sometimes maybe there's a younger agent in the office that can, to go to that listing presentation with you. So it's at least two of you letting your office know, okay, I'm going here, So there are a list of things that we will talk about, but it starts with being aware.
So, and a lot of agents use forewarn.
Yes.
Marshall Sklar actually introduced a couple years ago to me, and it's somewhere around $20 a month, but it gives you an opportunity to see who you're dealing with. But let's talk about, since we've talked about implied bias, and we've talked about discrimination, and now we're talking about safety. They almost go hand in hand, because you got to be very careful with, as you said, don't do one thing and then not do it for another. That everyone has to go through the same process to be equal, right? you know but how do you do that when really you're almost profiling? Because I remember several times where I've seen something in the past or background that, I may feel threatened by, but you may not, or someone else may not. I mean, it's a real tough kind of catch 22. Um, how do you do it the right way?
Oh, wow. That is a great question because, again, we don't want to be caught up. Well, you treated this person this way. So, first of all, I say it starts with business practices. What are your business practices? If anyone that has worked in corporate America, you put the widget the same way, you build the widget consistently. Customer service. This is what we do consistently. So, first of all, identify your business practices and make it public, meaning on your website. So, when you get that call today and someone wants to see a property or they want you to come over for a showing, then say, go through your list of questions that you've already identified, drive them to your website to review your business practices. That way, you've established this is how I'm going to treat you. You have your fair housing disclosure there, and you're having that conversation now, but then also Monday at 2 o'clock when you're meeting with them as well. So your business practices will set the form for you as well as your customer client, because now they know, okay, you will require a government picture ID before you meet with someone. If you're feeling uncomfortable, instead of meeting at their home, maybe we'll meet at the office first so we can go over paperwork that we're going to require for the listing presentation. And then I will schedule so that typically we just kind of go to the house. There are other ways around that. You can have them come to the office to kind of meet, to go over the paperwork, talk about your business process, what the marketing looks like, and then we will schedule a tour of your home. You see,
Yeah.
versus let me just go to the home with my paperwork and so forth. So if they're not willing to come to your office, then that may be a sign, or meet over coffee at Panera Bread, Starbucks, or something. But there are opportunities that we have to look at to reevaluate how we actually do business, and then actually put it in writing. This is what I require an ID for each person. When you're asking them maybe who has title to the property, you're looking at a listing, and they say it's only David. But then when you do your research, you see it's David and three other people. So again, having those it's all about conversation, communication, and doing it in a soft enough way that hopefully they understand, but it's your business practice.
Yeah, I mean, I was several years ago. I had an issue, and one of the issues is, and I always look like self reflect, like how I could do it better, right? So I had just to give you an experience, I had a client. I was really busy, and I had a listing, and it was around 1.3 million or somewhere around there, and and someone called, can I see it at 3 o'clock today? And normally I ask qualifying questions and whatever, but I was busy, so I didn't. And I asked, the one thing I did ask was, you pre-qualify, you paying cash, and she said, well, I think I'm going to pay cash. And is it just you, or are you coming with someone else? No, it's just me. So they show up, and they show up, two people. One of them, looks, I mean, she looked like she was on something, just from glassy eyes, just very, like, very just erratic behavior, just when asking questions, of vagueness, things of that nature. I escorted them in, and I left. One of the things is, Laura McAllister.
Yes.
So Laura did a safety class about a week before this happened. And one of the things I remember, she said that you always want to have your back to the front door and be the closest to the front door. So I went through the front door. I showed around a little bit. I left the door open. Both girls went down the hallway, and the first thing they said, Dave, I want to show you something. And the hallway was basically no reason. It was going to the garage. There's nothing to show me. It was a brand new house. So I said, yeah, no, no, no. And I just felt threatened. I felt like they were not there to purchase the house. So what else could they possibly be for? But, then I called the police. And I said, I told them I had an emergency and I had to leave. And then the police said, no, you're being racist. And I said, racist? I didn't even mention whether it was black or white. All I mentioned was it. I felt threatened. I felt like they were not there to purchase the house. So what were they there for? Like, what could possibly? There's nothing to steal there. There's nothing to, like. There's no other reason that I could come up with, and how to handle it. So we do come in these situations and experiences, and we got to do, we certainly have to do better and self-reflect. But a lot of times there's extenuating circumstances that you just try and avoid as well.
And it's always our instincts still, regardless. You always follow your instincts, and you look at, for example, opening the property, having them go in, it's vacant, and you just say, okay, I'll stand here and you go ahead and walk through, or have somebody call you, or you say, you know what, I need to make a call really quick. I need to check on something. And that's not being rude, and it's not really misdirecting your attention, but it's calling the office. Whether it's the office, whether it's a family member or whomever, putting someone on notice, this is where I am, this is who I'm going with, this is and even like I say, the driver's license, not going, I would never go, whether it's into someone's home or to shore property, if I don't have that information. Because if you're not willing to do that, then you need to find another agent who will not require that, because that's part of my business practices. And to establish that, and when you send them, whether you're having the conversation or telling them, and you have your ID or your vehicle and the driver's, this is part of safety. And when you have that conversation initially, either they understand or they don't. But at the end of the day, you have to be a proactive, agent, to make sure that you're doing the right thing for yourself while you're doing your business and conducting your business.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
I thank you for doing this, and I certainly appreciate you. You have a way with words, and being able to be a great educator for so many, and
Thank
we
you.
certainly appreciate you giving back to the business and the industry, because it's so important to have these conversations and to understand each other, so that we can do better in the future. So thank you, Deborah.
Yes. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, audience.
so we always end this segment on two questions. One is,
Uh-oh.
um,
You
who's
didn't
your
prep me for this part.
no, I did not. Who's your favorite? What's your favorite streaming series? If you watch streaming TV like Netflix, Hulu, any of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Does anybody know Money Heist?
Oh, Money Heist is great. Yeah.
Oh,
I love
I'm
Money Heist.
hooked. I'm hooked. I'm hooked.
Yeah, Money
I'm
Heist
so
is
sad
great.
after this. Oh my goodness, I'm hooked.
And what are you currently watching?
I'm actually watching the fifth series of Money Heist.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
It's a great show if you
What
haven't
about
watched it.
you?
So, we currently are watching 1883.
Okay.
It's the precursor to Yellowstone. So it's
Oh, I
the
love
yeah.
Yellowstone.
So
Okay.
1883 is on Paramount. It's also on Amazon Prime through Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
It really has a great cast. Actually, Tim McGraw's in it, Faith Hill, and a few others. And Tim McGraw is excellent as an
Mm-hmm.
actor, which who knew that he could
Yeah.
act as well. But yeah, it's very good. It's interesting.
Okay,
I
I'm
just
putting that on my list.
I just finished Cobra Kai, and my wife hates it, but it's just funny. It's like the 1980s, bringing you back to the 80s and 90s, and I don't know. I kind of like it. It's entertaining, but I would say my favorite of all time though is probably um maybe maybe Dexter. I really really like Dexter. I
Dexter.
haven't watched the new season yet, but
Oh, okay.
it's with the
It's a comedy.
no,
Is it kind of?
it's about a serial killer who's like
Oh, okay.
goes back. He goes back and yeah, people that have wronged and done some bad stuff. He is yeah, it was pretty interesting. But I
Okay.
love Money Heist as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Awesome.
well,
I got to take a look at 1883 and I'll let
yeah,
you know. But I know I love Westerns, so if it's
oh, it's
based,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
It really You'll
yeah.
like that a lot then. Well, thank you, Deborah. I really, really
Thank
appreciate it. We'll
you.
see you in
Thank you for
Orlando
having me.
soon,
Yes.
and thank you for all you do for our industry. And if we need to contact you, or someone wants to reach out to you, maybe they have an office, and they want to, do, potential courses or things of that nature to get up to date with At Home with Diversity or Fair Haven or safety classes. How can they contact you?
Sure. My contact number, my phone is 678-938-3962, or my website, Deborah, Deborah, Bethune, Bethune.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
week. Bye, guys. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We have an exciting guest next Tuesday as well. And Deborah, thanks so much and be well.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.